The country has obviously been fighting this war on drugs for decades now. What do you see as some of the successes of that war and some of its failures, challenges, if you like?
Yes, yeah. Yes, I would rather call it that way, successes and challenges, yeah, definitely, yeah. Yeah, I think from the then drug squad, which was under the police, to the DEA, the NDA rather, the Drug Enforcement Agency, until it moved to now, we've registered some tremendous successes. First, DLEAG now, with its previous name, has been able to domesticate international conventions regarding drug abuse and illicit drug trafficking, beginning with the 1961 Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs, then the 1971 Convention on Psychotropic Substances, and of course the 1988 UN Convention against trafficking of illicit drugs and psychotropic substances. So basically, and of course, if you look at our sub-region here as well, there are a lot of protocols and conventions within ECOWAS, within the AU. So DLEAG, just like other security entities, have been able to partake in this and to the best of our ability. That's one. Then in terms of our role as the entity charged with the responsibility of fighting drugs, illicit drug abuse within our communities, and of course transnational organized crime relative to drugs, we have been able to bolster our suppression regime, registering major seizures, beginning, for example, if you want the 2010 Bonto case, for example, that was even a turning point in the fight against drug in this country. So from then to now, we've registered major successes in drug seizures, interdiction, breaking the chain of cartel in our sub-region, of course, not without challenges. But we do understand interdiction is not just our role. We have to work on prevention, and I think that is even the most successful stories we can talk about. We've been able to engage the Gambian communities on a wide range of education, sensitization, public education, to the extent that we want to bring the fight to their doorstep. And our public advocacy directorate, now it used to be a unit, have been very, very proactive in that over the past few years. So we can say with all certainty that yes, we've got a lot of successes, but you mention challenges, yes, yeah, which is real,
yeah, and part of life.
Yeah, particularly for a developing country, we've had our own challenges and of course, like all other entities, other security entities in this country, we have challenges related to resources, for example, which is not peculiar to DLEAG, not peculiar even to the Gambia, yeah, which is an African phenomenon. But then we are trying to circumvent that by engaging government to invest more in the fight against drug, which is forthcoming. I can report very comfortably. Then all the challenges related to our job has to do with the social setup of where we operate. For the most part, we have to admit Gambians are now coming forward to support us. And we have situations where people will call, people will say, oh, this is happening in our neighborhood, this is happening in our hotel, this is happening around our border. That is welcoming, and we go. As soon as we get those kind of things, our presence is felt. But the bigger challenge associated to that also has to do with, if you flip the coin, our men have been under siege for the most part in this country, for the particular last 2 years. Shortly before I came, and even my last 3 months, for example, we will go. We will go to a neighborhood, we'll go to a hotel, we'll go to a place, and what do we receive? Our men are pelted with stones, they are attacked, they are under siege. As we speak, we even have a staff who has been seriously wounded. And few weeks ago, we had issue in, I don't want to mention the town, but it's in the media. Our people went to a compound to search. Of course, we have issues related to professionalism, which we admit we have to work on our staff. But then our staff are also children, sons and daughters of other families.
Absolutely.
Who get up and go to work,
sure,
who their moms and dads expect them to go back home safe. What do they get? They get attacked, they get molested, So we have, that's a challenge. And we are not trying to apportion blame. We are trying to look at how to engage these communities for them to understand that what we do, what we sign up for, is for them, it's for ourselves as well. So basically, these are some of the challenges we are struggling with, and we hope we can circumvent them by way of asking people to own the fight. And that's what our public advocacy directorate is doing at the moment. That's what we have tasked them, for them to help the Gambian community understand that the fight against drugs is not just a DLEAG thing, or it's not just a law enforcement thing. It's a whole lot of community approach that we want to begin. It's been going on, but that's what we want to reinforce.
Absolutely. You described the Bonto seizure as a turning point, in DLEAG's or the country's war on drugs. How was it? How did it change things for DLEAG?
Yes, I think the Bonto case that happened a few months before I joined the agency, but we would also understand the sub-region as a whole, not only Gambia thing. The sub-region has been a target of cartel across Latin America to West Africa for shipment to Europe. And we wouldn't ascertain whether before Bonto it was happening, but when the Bonto case came in, it became a big headline in the sub-region. And it also awakened our as an organization, even not only DLEAG, law enforcement in the country generally. It was I wouldn't call it a rude awakening, but we sort of became more alert to what was happening around us. We even try to understand the nature of transnational organized crime even better after the Bonto case, knowing very well that the intricacies involved, the connections, and even the possible involvement. I cannot verify that, but the possible involvement of people even within us. So from the Bonto case, even DLEAG, as then NDA, thought that there was a lot of reform needed at DLEAG. I don't know, I don't want to say for certainty. I think that was why I was hired. That's why my predecessor was hired there, and other people were hired to help in the reform, and that's what we are still going on. I don't think reform has even a terminal. If people have to go on reform until they leave their jobs.
Absolutely.
But the reforms, all these reforms we are seeing now at DLEAG began after the Bonto case, in terms of personnel, in terms of capacity building, in terms of engaging government more to invest in drug law enforcement. Most of them started around 2010.
Perhaps DLEAG has become a victim of its own success. The recent seizures, I mean, they've been so frequent. Some people, mainly in opposition politics, have labeled the country a failed state. Can you understand why they would, call the country a failed state because of the drug problem?
Yes, I think I can understand with their situation. I can't complain, because I think they are concerned that drugs have become prevalent in their communities, because they see, because these things don't happen in a vacuum. They see. But to define the Gambia as a failed state, I think it's a bit of an overstatement, and if you like, a bit of an oversimplification, because a failed state, and anybody can correct me, but a failed state entails more than just people coming in and out of it. Drug is part of it, but it has to do a whole lot of issues related to legitimacy, issues related to civil unrest, issues related to government losing control, what's happening, issues related to the economy crumbling down. So it's a whole lot. Of course, drug is part of it, but drug trafficking alone, people even go to the extent, if you may allow me to label us a narco state even, which is a bit stretch also, because if you look at a narco state, for example, what are some of the issues people talk about, people see? What are some of them that are widespread, for example? You see, the economy itself, in a narco state, the economy is anchored by drugs. Everything around the economy, like Colombia in the 1980s to 90s, under the Medellin cartel that Escobar sort of was in charge of. So in a narco state, people may know this better than me, but then we know in a narco state, everything around the economy is around drugs. That's not the situation in the Gambia. Yes, their concern is legitimate, and that's why we are even here. And that's why DLEAG is busy on these reforms. If you go to the other services, look at the police, the other services, they are always on reform, trying to address current dispensation. And the current dispensation in our sub-region is that because of the large youth population, drug abuse is also surging. Because if you look at West Africa, look at the census for our country just came out a couple of months ago. If you look at the age bracket between 18 and 45, it's huge. And because drugs, the target is youth, so drug issues will become prevalent. We want to address them as much as we can. If you look at also our sub-region, is because we have some weaknesses here in the sub-region. We have some vulnerabilities. We cannot run away from them, including Gambia. And the reforms are trying to address those weaknesses. And if you look at, for example, the airport recently, we are trying to do that with other services. I have a situation in which just recently, an arrestee who was hired by somebody from Europe, his master told him, I'm more worried about Banjul than where you are taking off from. Oh. Exactly. We didn't even ask him that question. So that shows that to some extent, even some of the cartel are aware that we are alert, that we are alert to our weaknesses and we are trying to address them. That is not to say people shouldn't be worried. We just want to allay their fears. That I don't think narco state or failed state is a bit of an opinion, depending on which side of the continuum you are. But in my opinion, we have not even get closer to being a failed state.
Now, for many years, probably still is, marijuana or jamba or Thai has been the dominant illicit drug in this country. Now, the global discussion on marijuana as a banned drug is changing, with the plant increasingly being touted for its medicinal products. Where do you see the discourse on marijuana, Thai, jamba, weed heading in years to come in the Gambia?
That's a very interesting question because, like you said, the debate on medicinal marijuana or recreational marijuana has been on, particularly for the better part of last 15 years, and it's increasing daily. And talking about the national dialogue, I think it's a national dialogue that we should approach with caution. Because it's not just the legal framework. You have to look at other parameters around legalizing it. I do know in Africa, for example, less than 10 countries have legalized it as a medicinal or recreational drug, like Eswatini, Zimbabwe, Morocco, Lesotho, South Africa, Malawi.
So mainly Southern Africa?
Mainly Southern Africa. In West Africa, only Ghana is trying it. Because even Ghana, they are struggling with the other framework. For example, in the Gambia, let's be very simplistic here. Public smoking, for example, is illegal. But how far have we enforced it in this country? Littering is illegal. How far have we enforced? We are not saying we shouldn't aid towards that. And we are not saying stop the dialogue. I think we can do the dialogue, but we also understand that legalizing marijuana or jamba, as you call it, has a bigger issue than just saying if you traffic, you are free, or if you smoke, you are free. It has other issues related to, even in the U.S., for example, which most of us will quote as example, 50 states, only 39 have legalized it. In fact, only 24 have it as a recreational drug. But they have the structures, they have the framework. When we do the national dialogue, frankly, we have to also understand the socio-cultural setup that we have. Because if we cannot enforce it, we might as well not even try to do it. Because enforcement is an issue in Africa. We have to admit that. Sometimes some of these things we don't want to admit them, but they are real. Anybody can come here and smoke. Perhaps, maybe if you are tough, you can tell them, you cannot smoke in public. You cannot smoke near me. But we know it's illegal to smoke in public. You go to all these bars, go to all our voos, our naming ceremonies, our engagements. People are smoking cigarette all over. But is it legal? No,
not at all.
So we can engage. We can go on the dialogue. We can. It's good to say, oh, somebody has done something good. I want to copy it. No problem with that. But we don't want to be a copycat. As far as the bandika wrong. Just because they have it, we can have it. We have to have the framework to be able to implement the legal instruments. And that framework, I want to talk about issues related to correction facilities, issues related to rehabilitation facilities. I'll come to that later about issues of rehabilitation, but we don't even have one rehabilitation facility for drug in this country. Tanka have been doing good, they've been doing great, but they are not specialized in drugs.
How could you help them?
Okay, then I can bring the last thing I want to talk about here. Just 2 days ago, on Tuesday precisely, we finalized with ECOWAS on a rehabilitation center for drug abuse disorders. And that project should kick off in few weeks' time, latest a month. So and we are the only country in the sub-region who don't have a rehabilitation center for drug abuse disorders, specialized. My predecessor has done very well in terms of negotiating with ECOWAS for the past 3-4 years. And of course, my PRO was part of that engagement he's a reference point. And it stalled. It was supposed to start somewhere in 2019, but COVID-19 came in and the project stalled. So when I came in, I tried to rekindle the negotiation. And hopefully, this country will have a drug rehabilitation center for the first time in its history in the next coming few months. And that's not my own credit. It's been going on. I just had to facilitate and rekindle the negotiation. That way, those are some of even the issues we have to look at before we talk about legalization. Because if you legalize it, even the countries, like I mentioned, about less than 10 countries have legalized marijuana. And even those countries, statistics, we've gone to their statistics. Statistics didn't show that cannabis interdiction has gone down. If it has gone down, it's not even significant. So to legalize is one thing, to have the framework. If you legalize it, of course, people can always use it differently. Just like we talk about Kush, for example. You know, Kush, the main product of Kush is cannabis. So if you legalize Kush, you are expecting things that you have not even factored now to happen, because we have these clandestine labs all over the world. How will they come there? What do they do? What do they do with these drugs? How do they manufacture and divert their use? We don't know. So these are some of the thinking process that has to be part of the national dialogue on legalizing marijuana. It's not bad, but you have to have the legal framework, which is just one. You have to have the other structures that you have to have in place. And then most importantly, you implement them to the letter, which, no disrespect, which we are not very impressive at in this country in trying to implement some of these things, some of these socially connected laws. Because people tell you, people always, they assume that nothing will happen. That's why we litter everywhere. That's why we smoke anywhere we go. If we legalize marijuana, we don't know what will happen at the moment. But the dialogue must continue. We want to encourage people to come. But it has to be research-based, evidence-based. Anything we do in this day and age, it cannot be a guesswork. You have to look at other countries that have it, what they have. I'm not saying we can have what America have. We cannot have it overnight, or what South Africa have. But then we have to understand some of the structures they had while they were on that dialogue until they got to where they are.
Absolutely, absolutely. Demba Cissé is the Director General of the Gambia's Drug Law Enforcement Agency. He's our guest throughout this morning. I'll be coming to your text messages later on. I just want to acknowledge Ja Oil, who are the sponsors of our YouTube feed.
In a world where progress never sleeps, one company stands out as the driving force behind infrastructure and energy solutions. Introducing our fuel company and cement producer, where excellence meets efficiency. Ja Oil. The company have 30 filling stations across the country that are all operating, which includes the recently completed Yarambamba and Old Yundum filling stations. And our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Along the years, Ja Oil introduces importation and distribution of cement in their line of business to diversify and strengthen their operations. Are you a cement retailer? At the moment, Ja Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market. With a focus on sustainability and innovation, we are paving the way for a greener, stronger future. Trust in us to fuel your projects and lay the groundwork for success. We currently produce over 25,200,000 bags per year. As the largest cement producer in the country, Jaha Oil also targets to export cement to the neighboring countries like Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and others. Join us on our journey to shape a world where every drop of fuel and every bag of cement makes a difference. Together, we can build a brighter tomorrow.
Let's come to the law. You talk about Gambia having an enforcement problem. The laws on drugs, are they severe enough to deter, trafficking in drugs and even, consumption of drugs?
Yes, they are severe, and it's not only us. Across the globe, the laws on drugs have been stiff. But to some extent, and I stand to be corrected, I don't think stiffer laws entirely make people not to deal in drugs.
Oh.
Yeah, so it has to, stiffer laws plus some other things, because there are countries that have death penalty on drug trafficking, like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Philippines, Singapore, few others, China. But there's still drug traffic and peddling every day in those countries.
True.
Every day.
True.
And the death penalty is there. So, yes, stiff laws could be a deterrent, but to a point. Somebody who doesn't want to deal in drugs, peddle in drugs, may not even think about the law, because they just feel that they are morally obliged not to commit crime. But yes, we have stiff laws, for example, trafficking of cannabis trafficking is 1 million or 10 years. But people are still trafficking. Some time ago, we wanted to address this issue, but then by way of making some amendments in the Act. The 2023 Act has been amended several times, 2011, 2014, and just recently we even have a bill that we are taking to our parent ministry anytime soon. We are trying to look at our setup, our cultural setup, our socio-economic setup, and see how we can ameliorate the situation, particularly on first-time offenders, because we do know some of these laws disproportionately affect disadvantaged sections of our communities, people who may not be in a position. Some drug barons could easily pay, but some of our brothers and sisters in the streets, in our homes, because the abuse situation happens in our homes. Our brothers and sisters, and all these things happen sometimes when the parents are even watching.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah. We have situations where parents even tell us that they are smoking in our home. So we know incarceration is not always the answer, the panacea to the problem. So that's why we are in constant engagement with the criminal justice system in the country, and of course with stakeholders, civil society organizations, health, Minister of Health, all the people who have a stake in drug abuse disorders, to see how we can more of a policy of containment, understanding that stiffer laws have not always solved the problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just mentioned the criminal justice system. Is the drug issue in the Gambia a public health issue or a criminal justice issue?
I would say it's both. I would say, like my grandchild, when I ask my grand, do you want oranges or bananas, he will say, give me both. so this year I will say both. I think the drug issue is both a public health, because public health matter, and of course a criminal justice matter.
And how do you involve the health officials, workers in the fight against drugs?
Yeah, first is to understand that we approach the board compassionately and with a level of accountability. Compassionate in the sense that we have to understand people hooked in drug need help. So incarceration is not always the answer. So the health aspect is that when somebody takes drug, it goes from a personal to a family, to a community, to a larger social implication. Then when it happens, it means society must approach it with compassion, and by way of being very professional how we handle it. Of course, the criminal justice is there. If you commit crime, you have to account for your crime. That's definite all over the world. Gambia is not an exception. But if people are hooked on drugs, 9 out of 10 they need more help. So we are. That's why previously I talked about the amendment of the Drug Control Act. Even 10 years ago, 2014, when that amendment was done, we included a community service section where first-time offenders, instead of sending them to Mile 2, you could send them to Banjulunden Garden, for example. Or you could send them to an or a horticultural center for 1 month, or for depending on the crime. The framework was even developed. But it didn't all go well with the then establishment. It was expunged from the proposal for amendment, and the fines for first-time offenders was lowered. For example, for cannabis possession, like one joint, for example, from 250,000 to 50,000. Knowing very well that yes, one or two people could be able to pay 250, but a lot of our youths we found in our neighborhoods cannot pay 250,000. So it's the public health aspect of addressing is to lessen the fines on first-time offenders on some of these drugs. Okay. Then also, we in the current one, the one we are about to submit to our parent ministry, the current amendment, we have also reinserted again the community service aspect of relating it to drugs, so that we know that when people cannot pay, it's not likely they'll go to jail for small quantities. They could be able to pay 50,000. If you're going to pay 250,000, you should be able to pay 50,000. That's just a way of making so that we don't congest our prisons, we don't incarcerate a lot of people. But then the public aspect addressing system also is the issue of this rehabilitation center, which Minister of Health, Social Welfare are all down in the picture, because they were part of the people who were the architect of the whole concept. And when it kicks off, when the center comes into play, it's not a DLEAG center. All stakeholders who deal with substance disorder are part of that center. We hope it is going to be a game changer. We hope we can help alleviate some of the problem related, particularly to first-time offenders. Then the criminal justice system, which you just mentioned, yes, the drug issue is part of it. That's why we work with other sister services. We work with the criminal justice system. That's why we prosecute offenders. They have to account. We want to address the situation, but we cannot give anybody a blank check. So if you commit crime, naturally, you have, like related to drugs, just like any other crime, you have to account for it by way of imprisonment, if possible, by way of taking to court, unless you are able to prove yourself with all certainties that you are not an offender.
All right. Let me start taking questions from the public. Thank you, Brother Peter, for creating opportunities for those in charge to engage directly with the people concerned. Here's a strong and relevant question for the Director of the Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the Gambia, considering the agency is not armed. With the increasing challenges of drug trafficking and organized crime, how does DLEAG ensure the safety of its officers while effectively enforcing drug law without being armed? Are there any plans to enhance their operational capacity? This is Mohamed Jallo asking.
Thank you, Mohamed Jallo, that's for that question. Yes, it's common knowledge that we are not armed, and our men sometimes operate in very dangerous situations.
Just men and women.
Men and women. Thank you for that. Our officers operate in very dangerous circumstances. And initially, I told you how when they come under siege, where they have been pelted with stones, they've been attacked. Our officers have been taken to the hospital nearly on a monthly basis. A month ago, 4 of them in Brikama had to be hospitalized at Brikama Health Center. And we do also know we have issues related to professionalism on our men. We don't want to hold brief for them. And that's what these reforms are all about, trying to make sure our officers operate within the ambit of the law. not try to do anything excessive, anything outside their terms of reference. But even with that, they get attacked. So when we are in those situations, or when we expect those situations, we seek the services of our partners, particularly the PIU, the Gambia Police Force. The IGP is just a call away from action as far as DLEAG is concerned. His operations commanders, his paramilitary, anytime we involve them in this kind of operation, they come in. But to address that even further, like the question is asking, we have included the issue of an arm wing as part of the next, in the current amendment bill. We want to envisage having an arm wing of DLEAG, a wing that will be armed. Not to go and terrorize people, dehumanize them.
Hopefully.
because that being armed also comes with responsibilities. We understand that. So the issues of responsibility, responsible use of force, proportional use of force, are all the issues we will discuss as part of the brainstorming if that arm wing is approved. Hopefully to ameliorate the situation Mr. Jallo is talking about. But he's right, we are under attack on a daily basis. That is not to say others are not supporting us. But that's the reality.
Maybe that's why the appropriate use of the word war. It is a war.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. That's true.
I congratulate Demba and the team for the excellent work. Jamba is smoked in many areas of the beaches and specific spots in the greater Banjul area openly. How can his institution help curb this? Are they advocating for a reform in the laws to give stiff penalties to all traffickers?
Yes.
Let's address the open smoking
exactly,
of Jamba now.
The open smoking
if you come to London corner.
Yeah, exactly. The open smoking is, we don't want to brush it under. We don't want to come here and say, no, it's not true. Like, it's just like saying that when we come here and say there are no drugs in this country, we would lie to say that. And the open smoking is all over. It's not, but we hope we are addressing it. But we know our presence is felt more now than before. Not to say before there was no work. My predecessor has done an excellent job. We are just trying to reinforce that work. We want to be present everywhere as much as possible. We want the communities to get to us. We know you talk of London corner. We know certain areas in town that
Kololi Tavan.
Yeah.
That's the hub.
Exactly. they call them hubs. But we don't rest on our laurels. We understand that's what we have signed up for. So we make sure that we go to these communities, and also, but we also looking at that with our advocacy approach as well. That's why we are also present not only in interdiction, we are also present in advocacy, trying to educate people, to sensitize people about the dangers posed by drugs, and hopefully the involvement is getting even more impressive now, because we have created drug-free clubs across the country in many schools, so that we know where we have to start. It's easier to mend children than mend broken men.
True.
So we go to the schools, we engage them, because these are people who will leave school very soon.
Absolutely.
Grade 9 or grade 12.
Absolutely.
If they don't have anything to hold on to, they could find themselves in the streets and get influence. But we are addressing the situation. We know it may not be enough, and we apologize. But we are also not apologize. We appreciate the people's fears and concerns, but we want to allay their fears also. Sorry, that we are there. They can call us. The PRO's number is all over cyberspace. Most of the time, weekend, Saturday, Friday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, he's on the phone nearly every hour. And as soon as he gets it, he alerts our operation, and we address it.
Absolutely.
So
how about the issue of stiffer penalties?
Yeah, stiffer penalties. Yes, stiffer penalties, because we have not seen where it has worked seriously.
Okay.
Seriously, we already have the penalties we have are already stiff. To be honest, like if you have more than two kilograms of cannabis, that's trafficking. That's $1 million. So that it's really stiff. But it doesn't prevent, if you do that to one person, it doesn't prevent another person from carrying another 2 kilograms.
Because somebody will always think that, oh no, I can escape.
I will escape. Is that notion of I will escape?
Yes.
That makes it.
Yeah.
But we want to give more priority to public engagement and advocacy than arrest and interdiction. But even though that is also unavoidable.
Absolutely. This is a contribution. Good morning, Uncle Peter. I served DLEAG for 13 years now. I think the new DG is doing a great job despite the limited resources available. It is unfortunate to hear a few people call the Gambia a failed state or a narco state. The Gambia is not even close to what we call a narco state. That is over-exaggeration by a few elements. We accept both subjective and objective criticism because we are in public service and we must be held accountable. However, remember that all those in law enforcement are also taxpayers. They're doing the job based on the love of their country. If push comes to shove, all officers have their families here, and drugs have no boundaries, race, color, religion, tribe, political affiliation, or otherwise. The past few months, DLEAG registered unprecedented cases, both inbound and outbound. The drugs recently intercepted at the airport were coming from advanced countries that are well equipped, meaning the criminal beat their security, and on arrival, they were arrested. This is a contribution. Why do you think you are scoring success where even more advanced countries, apparently with even more equipment, detection equipment, are failing?
Yeah, I think it has to do with for the most part, drug has to do with the personnel also. I think the personnel play a part. And all over the world, drug officers have been accused of being complicit in the drug trade. Whether we like it or not, that accusation will always be there. Now, the onus is on us to make sure we are not complicit. At the airport, for example, like the person who just we've always reached success at the airport, even during my predecessor's time, and of course other areas. But we can say with certainty that the last 6 months have been a bit unprecedented, because some of these airport seizures, looking at our statistics, have mostly been outbound, Banjul or outwards, and I've spoken to a partner in another country who says they've been seizing some cocaine from Banjul for the longest time, and have seen a drastic reduction of that from July to now. I don't want to take the credit, but I know what we did at the airport, just like other services. If we go to immigration, the police, SIS, they've all beefed up. We've all bolstered our operations at the airport. And if you work as a team at the airport, the criminals have less chance. And we know that also the issue of longevity. If law enforcement, drug law enforcement, I don't know the orders very well, but I know drug law. If your personnel stay in one location, for example, one deployment for a long time, in a society like the Gambia, we are brothers, sisters, families, neighbors, we live together, we do everything in common, regardless of our ethnicity, regardless of our religion. We all celebrate Christmas, we all celebrate Tobaski. So we are one people in this country. True. If you leave one person, for example, at Jiboro for 8 years, for example, naturally, because of his proximity with the people, even if that was the first time he went to Jiboro, after 5 years, he's almost a Jiboro citizen. Yeah. So those are some of the things, not only me, even the other services are aware of. And when we do redeployment and transfers, we take care of those things. And as soon as we do them, we see the effects quickly. Not that the previous ones were useless, but because, as we say, familiarity breeds contempt.
Absolutely.
They've been there for the longest time, and their effectiveness will generally diminish.
Be compromised by relationships.
Exactly.
Here's a very long contribution. Subject: strengthening anti-narcotics measures at the Gambia port. Dear Peter, I hope you're doing well. I'm reaching out to raise awareness about the potential risks of drug trafficking through the Gambia's seaport, particularly following the transition of port management to Alport Banjul, a subsidiary of the Al Bayrak Group from Turkey. Given Turkey's strategic role in global narcotics transit, it is crucial to proactively strengthen security measures to prevent illicit drug smuggling into and through the Gambia. As a key entry point into West Africa, the Gambia's port could be targeted by international traffickers who exploit maritime shipping routes, weak inspection protocols, and corruption vulnerabilities. To enhance our national security, I would like to propose one, enhanced cargo screening at the port, including random inspections and the use of advanced drug detection technology. 2, stronger collaboration between DLEAG, port authorities, customs, and international agencies such as Interpol and the UNODC to track and intercept illicit shipments. 3, capacity building programs for customs and port personnel to detect and prevent sophisticated smuggling methods. 4, community and stakeholder engagement to encourage whistleblowing and intelligence sharing on suspicious activities. By taking proactive measures, don't worry, I will forward all these to you. By taking proactive measures, we can protect the Gambia from becoming a major transit point for international drug syndicates. Remark, please note that Turkey is a major transit hub for narcotics trafficking, primarily due to its strategic geographic location between Asia, Best regards.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We are aware of the transition that is taking place at the ports. We do know that another company is working with government for terms and conditions agreed among them. But we, just as we engage the current establishment there, we will engage any player who eventually takes up the ports, because we do know that, like the concerned person here, we know that the port is goods in this country come through the ports, and we have had previous experiences at the port. We have had some interdiction at the ports, so we cannot just rest on our laurels and assume that because there is a new establishment, everything is going as normal. No, at the moment we don't have any reason to suspect things will get bad. We have no reason, but we will engage the players there, including our own staff there, GRA and others, because we are not even the only people at the ports. We work with other services who are always supporting, and we have always worked in tandem with those services. But the issue of Turkey being a transit hub at the Banjul International
by virtue of its geographic location.
because for their geography, they're half Asia, half Europe.
Yes.
So naturally, Turkey is also a complaint of being a target of drugs. They've been bombarded with drugs coming from Latin America. So yes, we don't want to hold brief for them here, because we don't know, we don't want to speculate, but we can say with very certain terms that we will engage the new players that are going to take over the ports on terms that they understand that we can do anything that we think will safeguard the integrity of our port.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Peter. Greetings to you all. My question to DG of our drug agency: what are the outcomes of all the reported drugs caught in the country from containers at seaport and the ones frequently at the airport? So if the drug law enforcement agencies didn't handle drug cases with seriousness, evidence taken to court will end up being ordinary flowers and drugs will continue to circulate. What measures are you and your agency putting in place to curb that menace to save our society? First, what happens to drugs when you seize them?
When we seize them, from the point of seizure, we weigh them. We do two things. We call the analytical report on them, and weigh them to know the level of crime that has been committed.
That's determined by the weight.
By the weight, yeah. Like, for example, cannabis, Cannabis. Just because that's the most widespread.
Yes.
Yeah. There's an amount, there's a weight that will be considered possession, that you are taking it for the purpose of perhaps using it or giving to a broader use. But there's a weight that goes beyond 2 kilograms, for example. If it is more than 2 kilograms, I'm not sure anybody can smoke 2 kilograms in a day. So that's why the law, not DLEAG, but that's the drug, the law says that is trafficking. You are having that for the purpose of distribution, selling. So the penalties vary. So when they are weighed, they are tested to prove the authenticity of our charge. We think this is cannabis, we have to test it. So when they are tested, then the accused person is arraigned. Depending on the jurisdiction and depending on the amount, is left to the magistrate to decide what will happen to that case. Most of the time, for lesser crimes, lesser weights, we prosecute them. And I can say with certainty here, I don't want to make any comparison, but we have one of the best prosecutors in town. And they prosecute them diligently, and depending on what they act on that. Some of the cases, large, for example, large cocaine shipment arrest, for example, the magistrate knows that it is not within his or her power to try them. He referred it to a higher court. So it moved from the appellate court, from the magistrate court, from on. That's why there are so many major drug cases as we speak to you, major ones. We are not prosecuting them because there's a competent authority that is prosecuting them. So society, for the most part, some people don't know how it works.
So once a drug case gets to the higher courts, you're out of the prosecution line, is that correct?
Yeah, we are not prosecuted, but our people could be called as witnesses because we are the arresting officers. We can only
so who prosecutes then? The Attorney
General Chambers prosecute them.
So all these problems with, blocks of cocaine and whatever, it had gone past, the level of DLEAG. Because a lot of people are associated.
Yeah.
There was a time when a magistrate, there's this case of this magistrate and So was this still, at the level of DLEAG or it had
No, that was at the level of the magistrate. And I would want to excuse me for not going deep into that.
Because it's sub judice.
But it's, exactly, but that is under an authority that is.
Judice,
exactly.
Okay.
But then I do know that we have a level, and it's mostly is the magistrate who decides whether to prosecute it or to move it to a higher level, which is not within his jurisdiction.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you bring Jamba, for instance, as evidence, proof that this person was involved, Peter Gomez was involved in drug trafficking, who has custody of that Jamba? Because sometimes you hear, well, we weighed the first day and it was X number of kilos. Yeah. After a week or so, it's gone down.
I don't want to disrespect their opinion and their claim, but then I do know we as soon as we seize them, we handle them until they go to court but we also understand some of our accused persons are schooled by their councils, by their family. I'm not saying they fabricate. I don't want to blame anybody, but I can tell what we do, and I want to allay fears of either recycling drugs, because it's a talk of that in town.
Yes.
I have heard it.
It's an opportunity for you to clarify.
Exactly. I want to allay public fears that DLEAG will not and has not been recycling drugs. And under my tenure, my team, and as DLEAG as an institution, I can say with all the veracity of the truth that I know, we will not, our officers have not and will not recycle drugs. We have a chain of custody, and we are trying to build on the integrity of that chain of custody to the extent that we can account for any drug that has been arrested, from the point of arrest to up to the last end, until the person is either is discharged or sentenced, so that they could we have what we call exhibit bags for non-planned drugs. For example, we put them in exhibit bag, and we want to start a process where we will put non-planned drugs. For example, you cannot put a car of cannabis in a plastic bag like we had 2 weeks ago, but non-planned drugs like ecstasy, cocaine that can be put on bags. We have this on the spots. We will put them on the spot in the presence of the accused and label it, and we want the accused to trace that bag up to the time he has been discharged or been sentenced. So basically, drugs are not being recycled, at least under my watch. That I can say with certainty. And I believe under the watch of my predecessor as well. Okay.
Let's take this contribution from Lamin Jawara in Bundung. He says, my concern is the number of unresolved cases and young people at our state penitentiary whose cases have not even been looked at yet. I overheard a commissioner complaining that there are boys at the Mile 2 who are still at remand wing that committed crimes that even $5,000 could solve, but they have no lawyer to represent them at the court. Does every non-violent related drug case require incarceration, or does it require treatment? A lot of young people are already wasteful at their prison, Uncle Peter. Taxpayers' money could be saved for some of these cases and make programs that would help these people. Are you aware of young people languishing in jail, their cases yet even, to come to court?
I don't think so. When I say I don't. When I took over, the cases that are on the DLEAG, but if you go to mile 2, or Joshua, if you go to the prisons, some of the accused persons, their cases are not being prosecuted by us, and we cannot comment on those ones. But the ones that we prosecute, one of the first things I did when I came in July is to engage my prosecution division for us to fast track the arraignment of people who have been accused. Because, for example, within 72 hours, you have to either charge them or let them go, for example. Some of these accused, to charge you when they are arraigned, they are not able to meet the bail condition. If they are not able to meet the bail condition, because that is from the Act, there's no way the prosecution can change that one. It's just like if you go to the magistrate court, they have the Act or the CPC, the Criminal Procedure Code to follow. They cannot go outside that. Where they are able to meet their bail bond, we always try to make sure that they are arraigned. And when they are arraigned, or bail or no, we want to fast track it. I want to give you certain figures, for example.
Yes.
Between January and 30th of June, my prosecution division arraigned 77 people, 6 months in court. When I look at the statistics, just after when I came. Between July 1st and December 31st, they arraigned 130 people.
Oh, wow.
Just because we have mapped out a strategy of trying to fast track some of these cases, knowing very well that everybody you arrest is still presumed innocent until proven guilty at the court. So we want, it's not only us, even the other services, it's all part of the whole security sector reform, making sure that people have to be treated with dignity, and you have to respect their rights.
Absolutely. Of
Of course, not letting them go off the hook if they commit crime.
Yeah, not at all. I'll make this my last, contribution from the public. Abubakar Jallo from Banjul. How are you addressing other drugs different from marijuana? We talked about ecstasy not so long ago.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same. For us, the drugs have categories, and the Drug Control Act it has addressed all these categories. When they go to the court, that's what the magistrate, that's what he looks at. Of course, social media is littered with all sort of comments and concerns.
Yeah.
We have to understand their concern, and we cannot blame them, because they are Gambians like us. For the most part, they want the good for us, and that's why they even go to social media. They do criticize, but we take these criticisms in good faith, because we know, for the most part, they are concerned that we are able to correct the wrongs that have been going, the weaknesses, to close the gaps, also to address our vulnerabilities. But then, in regards to the drugs, the categories are spelled out in the Drug Control Act, which unfortunately, 95% of the people who comment on these fines have not even seen the Drug Control Act. So the lawyers among the commenters, of course, they understand. But we know some have never seen the act. They know the general issue about drugs, but the specific issues related to these drugs and their specific fines, some of us unfortunately don't have.
Absolutely.
But their concerns are well taken note of, and our public advocacy unit, they follow social media almost religiously, and they give us feedback on this. And we are not saying every social media thing we become jittery, but we react to them, because we know these are Gambians who have concern for this country and for DLEAG.
Okay. And just to wrap up, what legacy would you hope to leave, after, your term?
Maybe it's a bit too early, because I'm just 6-7 months in the job.
Well,
but I want to leave a legacy in which DLEAG as an institution has a very fluid working relationship with the other sister services in this country. The police, the SIS, the military, GRA, immigration, prisons, fire service. Because our security, security infrastructure, architecture of this country, it lies on all of us. So I want to make sure that DLEAG doesn't operate in a vacuum or independent of these agencies, because we complement each other. I talk about the PIU and the IG, for example. Anytime we need support, they come in. If there's no fluidity between us, there's no way they could support us.
Absolutely not.
Then I also want to leave a legacy of a DLEAG with highly professional staff, because professionalism matters in this job. we've been accused, not all over this country, law enforcement have been accused, mostly wrongly, of being excessive, of being lagging. But I want to leave a highly professional staff, equipped with the required resources and trusted by the Gambian people, because the Gambian people have to trust us.
Absolutely.
They have to be sure. They have to go to bed knowing very well that their neighborhoods are safe. So that's a legacy I want to, and also want to leave a legacy in which we keep working with our partners, because Gambia itself as a country is not in a vacuum. We have very, very valued partners in the sub-region here, the authorities of Senegal, Judicial Police of Guinea-Bissau, the NDL of Nigeria. We want to work with them strongly. And our bigger partners in the international community, like UNODC, key player in what we do here. The National Crime Agency of the United Kingdom, the DE of the United States. These are big entities across the world who play a big part, who without them, we could still work, but with them, we could do better. Absolutely. So these are some of the issues I would like to, whenever I go out, I want to see them in place. Thank you.
Demba, thank you so very much for your time. Demba Cissé, the Director General of the Gambia's Drug Law Enforcement Agency, DLEAG.